Hi everyone, Kaylon Alexis here. Welcome to the ATM podcast. ATM meaning all things music. Right now, today's topic is going to be about the history of Steelpan, specifically in the aspect of clashing, warfare, and fighting. Now, if you're hearing me saying this and you're like clashing, warfare, fighting, then now self you need to pay attention to this video and don't skip it. All right. Now, if you're worried about the empty chair, I'm expecting our guest soon. He's just coming from a very, very far time. You'd understand what I mean by that in a bit. Right? Now, before we get into the clashing and the fighting and whatnot, let's talk about the origins of the steel pan, like pre-steel pan history that led up to its creation. So, as you know, the African slaves sort of came to Trinidad and they brought their drums and culture and music. Now, the drums were banned by the government at that point in time because they believed that they would use the drums to communicate with each other. Funny enough, the music was embedded in these people, so regardless of oppression, these rhythms and I guess the practices would have still been passed down in secret with or without their drums. So they found new ways to make music, right? One of them in particular being tambu bamboo. What tambu bamboo is, well, they would go and cut down bamboo stools and take pieces of bamboo, cut them to different lengths and use different widths to get different sounds based on the size. And they'll take the bamboo and stamp it on the ground, and they'll take sticks and they'll hit different parts of the bamboo. And they used to have entire tambu bamboo bands actually. Now the problem with bamboo is if you hit bamboo too hard and too repeatedly, it splits. So every time they had to keep going and making new instruments, and it was a bit tiresome. And eventually they started deciding, well, hey, we start picking up random pieces of metal and thing and trying to hit it, right? So then you had tambu bamboo bands with like metal pans and tin cans, biscuit pans and stuff within the tambu bamboo band. Eventually, everybody threw away the bamboo, and everyone was using pans. And there's knocking these pans, and the thing about a biscuit pan and thing is if you hit it long enough and hard enough, repeatedly, it sinks. Then when it's sinking now, they realize, but wait, there's like a pitch on the other side, actual notes, right? So that's what caused the experimentation that led to the development of the steel pan, where they keep sinking it and trying different shapes and different combinations, whatnot, to get different sounds and to get different notes and to actually tune the instrument. Now, where does the fighting and stuff come in? Well, this would have been in like 1940s and the 1950s, 1960s as well, but mainly the 40s and 50s, right? Where the people that occupied these music bands in Port of Spain were who you would call the bad Johns, the bad boys, the gangsters. Only bad men used to play pan. Those are the words of an actual elder in the pan that I play at. I asked him a few questions before I did this podcast, and he said only bad men used to play pan. Yeah, right. So the roughest, toughest, most ruthless guys, you'd find them in the pan yard, and they use music as a source of warring with each other. I guess if you want to put it like that. But I mightn't be able to tell you so much about it, so I'm still waiting on my guest. I don't know when he'll get here. This is Bob. Bob is from the golden ages of pan. Bob took a time machine to get here, and for some reason he reminds me of myself. Took you long enough, right? Okay, so let's hear it from the source, right? So tell them about who you are, and yeah, just tell them about who you are, and then we'll get into your plethora of experience. Alright, well, you know, as a pan man, and I just one of the
Right.
baddest
So
guys out
now,
there. Tell me about your experience. Tell me first of all, why why did you all why you all used to war? Why you all used to fight? For what? I mean for what? For woman, for territory, for who ban can song louder than who? Any chance we get we used to fight for. Alright. I understand. Kinda understand. So you all used to fight for that. But when you say fight and when you say war and clashing, like How? Guns, handcuff, how? Nah, guns is for babies. I talking razors, knives, bottle, acid, bombs, anything. Anything, any chance we get with anything,
All right, boss.
anybody could get
Okay.
it. So if this is the state that Steelpan was at that point in time, what changed? What was the catalyst for change? Well, you see, I will say it all started when the government would realize what was going on and they say, well, here what going on. Then we get the best players from every band within Port of Spain and put them in one big band and call them TASPO.
Okay. Okay.
And TASPO stand for Trinidad All Steel Percussion Orchestra. And they take all them players and they send we London for the Festival of Britain. And when the people out there see and hear Steel Pan, it change everything for everybody within the Steel Pan community. We realize that we have something special here and we don't want to fight. We don't have to fight. We could actually make money off of this and All right, interesting. So you're all hearing it from the source. You're hearing it from the source, right? So you see why communication is important because if it wasn't for that communication, then
Yeah.
we might
Yeah.
not have been where we
Yeah.
are. Thanks so much for that piece of information. Let me just ask, who are some of the main the main steel bands involved in this war in culture? Well, boy, you had Desperados, Renegades, Tokyo, Invaders, Casablanca,
Huh.
Bar
Okay.
20.
Okay.
Yeah. So Desperados, Renegades, like these names so tough. Like where they get the names from? Who came up with these names? Well, I can't tell exactly who come up with it, but I could tell you like the inspiration come from movies. So tell that movie name Desperados and one called The Renegade, one called something Tokyo, Destination Tokyo
Okay.
and
Okay.
Casablanca.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Well, all right. Thanks so much for that. I'll send you back to which part you come from now. Right. I appreciate it so much, and thank you for coming here just to talk to me a little bit,
Yeah,
so that
man.
the people could hear directly from the source because I wasn't around in your time to
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
was going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thanks for
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. All right, guys. So, man, turn into a pan, yes. Anyways, at least we have one now to look at, right? So we heard it from the source about what they used to war for, how they used to do it with what weapons and what bands and whatnot. Now, something very important is the steps that the government of Trinidad and Tobago took to try and eradicate this warring culture. Clearly, it worked because look at where Steelpan is today. That's why communication is important. And they saw it to themselves that, yo, this isn't a good look from the outlook in public, looking in on Trinidad and seeing what's going on with the steel bands. It's not a good look. So they said to themselves, yo, we need to do something about this. And they successfully did it. And the thing is, it would have took decades to really get rid of the stigma caused by that aspect of the instrument's history. Because people, well, if you ask any old people about how it used to be back in the day, they will tell you that the parents and stuff of that time, they used to say, no, I don't want you going in no pan yard. Don't let me see when you're in no pan yard. Make sure you don't go and have no pan man as a boyfriend. So they absolutely wanted nothing to do with pan yards and they didn't want their children to be around the pan yard because it was a place of violence and everything mentioned, right? It was a place of violence and warring and everybody just beating up everybody, stabbing everybody and all kind of crazy stuff. So nobody wanted their child around that. So imagine the stigma that remained and how much damage control needed to be done over the past decades to change that. To have so many youth involved in pan today is really a beautiful thing to see. It's quite fascinating to look at. Go to any panorama and you'd see how much youth there are. Go to any junior panorama and you'd see the enthusiasm and the passion in the youth of today for that same instrument. That same instrument that people were fighting over. Now it's a beacon for togetherness and passion and happiness and joy. So clearly, the decision makers did their job in getting rid of the stigma as much as possible and of mitigating the issues throughout the years from the 1940s to now. So I really hope that this conversation changed your perspective on things a bit and gave you some more insight about the history, because the thing is they don't teach this in the school, and that's what's a bit controversial, because they look at it as something bad. But it's good to see the way we rose above the challenges and the way we evolved and we changed over the years. But people see it as a controversial topic, so that's why a lot of people don't know about this aspect of the insurance history, especially people outside of Trinidad and Tobago. They don't know. They don't know anything about this. A lot of them, at least. So I really hope this podcast helped edify you a bit today, and I hope you learned something new. And that's all for the ATM podcast today. I'll see you next time. I'm your host, Kaylon Alexis. Bye.